So, if you're watching this video, I have to assume that maybe you had a wee bit of trouble on the algebra tiles activity. So if you're looking for a recap of what all of the little tiles mean, what their sizes are, and x squared and x and area, this is not the place for that. If you want that, go back to the other video. What we're looking at here is specifically, like, how do I get all of this square, this completed square, for the other ones that were in the table before. The ones that are in this table, there we go. So, for example, we did the middle one together. That's the square that we just see right there, the x squared plus 6x, and then we had to add 9 to complete the square. We want to know where all the other answers are coming from. All of these answers. Making it rain. Answers. Okay. So we're going to look at the first two and the last two here together. But first, just a reminder here, on the one that we did together, you're given x squared plus 6x. And in order to make it a square, you take half of your x's, that's 3 of them, you put it on one side, half of them you put it on the other side. In the gap, you fill it in with little tiny purple squares, unit squares. And this one needed 9 of them to complete the square. So we take half of the middle one and we get 3, and we square that 3, and there's our 9. Okay. And also, of course, that 3, the number that we got when we took half of the middle term, that's what's going to go inside the parentheses whenever we square the binomial. So let's look at the other ones. First one was x squared plus 2x. So we need our big square, and we need 2 x's, 2 long rectangles. You put 1 on one side and you put 1 on the other side. How many squares does it take to fill up that gap? Only 1. So there we have x plus 1 times x plus 1 whenever I look at it geometrically. And there's the one little square that completes it. Okay, now let's look at x squared plus 4x. If you hear all that noise in the background, that's Rowan playing loudly. Okay, yeah, take half of that, you get 1, square it, there's your 1. Okay, so we need x squared plus 4 of those little green rectangles. Put half of them on one side, half of them on the other side, and I got a little gap here. How big is that gap? Well, it's 2 across this way and 2 across that way. 2 times 2 means I need 4 of these things. This makes it an x plus 2 times an x plus 2 quantity squared, right? And to complete the square there, I'm taking half of the middle term, 2, square it, 4. Okay, let's look at x squared plus, what is it, 8x? I think that's what it is. So I'm going to put 4 of those green rectangles on one side, 4 of them on the other side of the square, and I'm left with a big old gap. How big is that gap? It is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. We need 16 tiny purple squares to fill that hole. He's throwing stuff now. Okay, so again, algebraically, I'm taking half of the middle term, so I get 4. And then I square that term and I get my 16. Can you see that for another second? Okay. So last one was x squared plus 10x. So I need a big square, 10 of those green rectangles, put 5 of them on one side, put 5 of them going down, and I'm left with a huge gap here. It's a 5 by 5. 5 times 5 is 25. I need 25 of those tiny little squares to fill in that hole. And that's going to make an x plus 5 times an x plus 5. So algebraically, I'm looking at the middle term, 10. Take half of it, I get my 5. I square that number, and there's my 25. So, to wrap this thing up, what I'm doing is I'm taking half of my middle term, my linear term, whatever it is, take half of it, put it on one side, and put the other half on the other side. So you get this diagram right here. The gap that's left behind is the number that you got after you took half. That number squared. That's that b over 2 squared. Alright, Hope that maybe cleared up a couple of things for you if you needed it. Let's finish this completing the square lesson off.